Warhammer hobbyists have had enough with Games Workshop and their massive retcons and gaslighting. They are now on the offensive, completely mocking the company for its destruction of its own lore. And when we see this happen, it usually means that the franchise is going to suffer a very quick death. Need look no further than Star Wars to see what happens when former fans are now mocking what once was their favorite franchise. Before we get to this, I'd like to ask you, please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss any of our future videos here at the Trent Report. Wrote this up over at thatparkplace.com. We're going to provide some quick context here. Maybe not too quick, but if you recall, Games Workshop introduced female Adeptus Custodes in the most recent Codex Adeptus Custodes with an excerpt stating, Custodian Caldice Tarvalia Kesh stood upon the bridge of a Cobra-class destroyer named Vigilant Flame. The warship belonged to the mighty Battlefleet Solar. She lingered in the shadows at the back of the bridge, positioned at a spot where she could observe the actions of every crew member, be they in the instrumentation pits, at the armament shrines, or in the case of Shipmaster Lethwick, stood Ramrod straight before his command throne. The official Warhammer account on X confirmed the authenticity of the excerpt and declared that female Custodes always existed. This is what they posted. Since the first of the 10,000 were created, there have always been female custodians. This is patently untrue. Former World of Warcraft team lead Mark Kern, aka Grums, shared an excerpt from the Rogue Trader Rules in 1987. It says this. Scroll down here. The Adeptus Custodes is the Emperor's inner guard, the members of which are privileged in being permitted to serve upon the Emperor, attending to his needs, receiving and recording his directions. These men never leave Earth and only rarely leave the Imperial Palace. So there you go. Very clear that they were men and always were men. There were no females. He also shared excerpts from the 2017 and 2018 Adeptus Custodes codices or codexes that refer to them as the Brotherhood of Demigods and make it clear they were recruited from the sons of nobles. One excerpt reads, "It is known that all custodians begin their lives as the infant sons of the noble houses of Terra. It is a mark of incredible prestige to surrender one's child to this most glorious of callings within the Imperium. And many notable clans amongst the Terran aristocracy have willingly given up almost entire generations of newborn sons to earn it." So very clear that it was a all-male organization. Brotherhood of Demigods, sons, right there. That's what they previously had. Despite the lie, Games Workshop has since doubled and tripled down on it. First, the company doubled down in a blog post on their Warhammer community website. Instead of noting that Adeptus Custodes are recruited from the sons of nobles, the blog post states this: potential custodians are taken in at a very young age to better survive the rigors of their transformation, no older than late infancy, for the fundamental changes that will be wrought upon their flesh, minds, and souls are tantamount to apotheosis. It is considered a great honor for those of Terran noble houses to submit a child. So they removed the language sons, replaced it with child, so they could add in their female Adeptus Custodes. They could retcon the entire organization in order to push feminism. And that's the whole purpose of this change. There is no reason to do this other than for ideological purposes. More recently, the company has tripled down, introducing a female custodian in the Warhammer Plus animated series The Ties, and claim that Custodes can now be any gender. So they're pushing transgender ideology on top of feminism. Surprise, surprise. This is the hallmark of a converged company. We've seen this with Star Wars. It does not turn out well at all. But this is what they wrote on the official Warhammer community website. Games Workshop revealed Tyrith, Shiva, Kyrus, the first three of a long list of honorific names earned fighting for the Emperor, has the privilege of being our first portrayal of a female custodian guard since the recent revelation that custodians can be any gender. This fact came as a real surprise to many, since it wasn't something previously explored. It came as a surprise to many because you completely changed the lore of the Custodes and then lied about it. That's what the surprise was. That in and of itself isn't a particularly unusual thing for Warhammer 40,000 and its lore. There are simply loads of things the Warhammer Studios have never expressly stated, whether that's ruling them in or out. From there, Warhammer continued to justify this massive retcon and gaslit its enthusiasts and hobbyists. They wrote this: since the earliest conversations about bringing the Horus Heresy to the tabletop and Black Library fiction, the exact nature of the Custodians has been under discussion. After all, their origins and means of creation, unlike, for example, the Legions, Adeptus Astartes, are shrouded in mystery. A significant advantage to this portrayal is that it helps us to address a common misconception that the Custodians are just bigger, better Space Marines. They aren't. Space Marines are made through industrialized ritual to be mass-produced brute force weapons of conquest. And even 10,000 years after their creation, draped in self-assigned glory, that's still true of them at their core. Each Custodian, on the other hand, is unique, painstakingly made through peerless craft and arcane artifice. Their physique, their psyche, their very soul is a bespoke instrument of the Emperor they unquestionably serve. We know a lot about Space Marines, relatively speaking, but there is still so much we don't know about the Custodians, particularly in Warhammer 40,000, and the recruitment process is the least of these mysteries. No, we had pretty good information about their recruitment process, and you changed it. You 100% changed it, and you are trying to lie about it now. It's just a mystery. It never actually was what you thought it was. We could just change things on the fly, and it'll be all right. The company then listed a number of questions. What exactly are they up to in the 41st millennium? What was their motive for joining the Indomitus Crusade? What do they really think of Guilliman? What secret weapons do they have sequestered away in their armory vaults on Terra? What does loyalty mean in a galaxy where the master you failed is silent and you despise what his empire has become? Finally, Games Workshop declared this: we sometimes call these gaps, and they are quite intentional. They let you as collectors, players, and fans fill the spaces with your own characters, stories, and narratives, making the Warhammer hobby truly yours. They also allow us to revisit factions through miniature stories and animations and offer something new and interesting. Female Adeptus Custodes is not interesting at all. And I think enthusiasts have spoken on that very clearly. Nevertheless, they said, imagine how sad it would be if we ever said, and that's it. That's everything you'll ever see in this army. No new models ever. That'd be rubbish. I don't think anyone would really have a lot of problems with that. I think it's you who have problems with that because you're trying to sell more new stuff. I think a lot of people are quite fine having the same models and not having to constantly be collecting new models. I don't think people would really have a problem with that. I think that's you trying to convince people that's a problem when the real problem is your problem. We call that projection. Anyways, Warhammer enthusiasts are not having any part of it and have taken to mocking Games Workshop and their lies and simultaneously proving J.R. Tolkien's comments in his essay on fairy stories true. This is what Tolkien said, that a story maker proves himself a successful sub-creator when he, quote, makes a secondary world which your mind can enter. Inside it, what he relates is true. It accords with the laws of that world. You therefore believe it while you are, as it were, inside. However, Tolkien adds this: the moment disbelief arises, the spell is broken. The magic, or rather art, has failed. You are then out in the primary world again, looking at the little abortive secondary world from outside. That's what Warhammer is now to probably thousands of former enthusiasts and hobbyists. If you are obliged by kindliness or circumstance to stay, then disbelief must be suspended or stifled. Otherwise, listening and looking would become intolerable. But this suspension of disbelief is a substitute for the genuine thing, a subterfuge we use when condescending to games or make-believe, or when trying more or less willingly to find what virtue we can in the work of an art that has, for us, failed. And I think Warhammer 40K has failed for numerous people, given this massive change to the Adeptus Custodes. So we get to the actual enthusiasts mocking the crap out of Games Workshop, and they're doing it on this Horus Galaxy subreddit. User Pan Hispan shared an image of an orc custodian and mocked books never stated that orcs can't be custodes. You can have female custodes. Why not orc custodes? The boys are here to stay. The ensuing comments took up the cause. One person wrote this: Pretty sure there has always been Orky Custodes. They just haven't been mentioned in any of the lore, books, codex, models, films, animation, design discussions, or illustrations, yet orc phobe. Another posted this. In reality, all Custodes are orcs. It's a translation mistake on the part of the books. They read all Custodes begin their lives as the infant sons of the noble houses of Terra. The correct translation is all Custodes begin their lives as the infant boys of the noble houses of Terra. If you're not familiar with the setting and the language, it can be an easy mistake. Still another wrote, it's in the same book that says that corn is the god of cakes and that he always made cakes, but we don't show his kitchen. So there's a bunch more. If you want to, obviously, you can click through here in the link, which I'll provide in the description below. But they are having a lot of fun at the sake of Games Workshop and what Games Workshop has done to itself. This is what they have done. Former hobbyists, former enthusiasts, people who love this property are now mocking it. They can't stand it. It is an abortive world. They see all the problems with it now. They can't even suspend their disbelief, and they're just mocking it and deriding it because it has lost all of its luster and its truth. And that's what happens when you embrace woke ideology, whether it is in the form of feminism, whether it is in the form of transgenderism. You destroy what you had. And that is what Games Workshop has done. They have destroyed Warhammer, and now we will be just documenting its fall, just as we've been doing with Star Wars. It happens so often, and the pattern is the same. But let me know what you guys make of this. Let me know in the comments below. Remember to always be charitable, especially to each other, but to always speak the truth.